would say since the industry began, since long before the industry began. She helped us to get here through legalization, her efforts in terms of her own personal journey and the battles that she has faced with our politicians to get us where we are. And she's also a former law enforcement officer, so I'm sure she will tell us a bit about that. So she's got quite an interesting perspective. She is a part of LEAP and is a medical cannabis consumer. Welcome to the stage, Alison. It was such an honor and pleasure to have you today. Alison Myrden.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Reena, you're amazing, honey. Beautiful time at Summer Crawl, everybody. Canna Crawl. I hope you tell all your friends and come out every year. My name is Alison Myrden, and I am one of Canada's very first legally licensed medical cannabis patients from 1994. So a lot of you weren't even around back then. I'm the OG in the crowd. So again, I'm one of the first people in the country to get a license for medical cannabis. But I was a law enforcement officer growing up. I actually did that as a job. A corrections officer. I worked in corrections with young offenders and decided when I knew that cannabis helped me. I have a violent pain in my face 24 hours a day that very few things in the world help. Cannabis and psilocybin are two of the things that are authorized to use in this world because of fighting in this country. So again, going back to my days in corrections, I didn't think young people should be arrested for using these substances either. I thought they should be educated and better informed. So I've been fighting for over 30 years for the young people in our world to understand that cannabis is good medicine, as I'm sure many of us know, and that psilocybin, again, is just along the same trajectory. So again, I've been fighting. I've done everything from podcasts around the world, Scotland, Ireland, England. I was on Montel Williams' podcast, Let's Be Blunt. I've told my story pretty much everywhere in the world, and literally I'm at the point now where I'm here because of another issue today that Reena's going to talk to me about that nobody's heard about yet in Canada, and I wanted you people to be the first to know. So as soon as Reena's ready, I'll talk about that. Other than that, I know that again, this is one of the most incredible events to be at here in Ontario, Canada, and we want everybody to know, no matter who you are welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Alison. So you gave us a brief indication of who you are. What I didn't mention is that you are also a member of QUIC and involved with QUIC, which is Canadian Women in Cannabis. Can you tell us briefly about that?
Yes, I was recently approached by board of directors, a few people on the board, Reena herself included, to be actually an advocate for a group in Canada called Canadian Women in Cannabis, And what we're trying to do is not only get the government of Canada's attention more so than any other lobby group in this country, but we're working hard to make sure that you are taken care of in every way in cannabis in Canada. So again, my role that I've taken on as advocate with Cannabis with the Canadian Women in Cannabis is to do advocacy work and to do some fundraising. So I think we can all get out there and reach in our pockets a little bit when we need to, and I know that again, this is as important to you as it is to people like Reena, Anthony, and myself.
Thank you so much for that, Alison. So check out Canadian Women in Cannabis if you're not familiar with it. Big up Canadian Women in Cannabis. Next question, Alison. I would like for you to tell us about your relationship with medical cannabis, please.
My relationship with medical cannabis started again, probably in the late 1980s, when I was growing up, and I battled multiple sclerosis, and I battled what they call primary progressive multiple sclerosis, and doctors told my partner, Gary of 37 years, and my parents, when my father was alive, that they would be spoon-feeding me in a nursing home by the age of 40 at the rate I was going when I was young. So I decided that they didn't know me at all, so there was no way I was going to be being spoon-fed in the nursing home at that age. So I figured I was going to get out there in the world and do something about it, and I found cannabis, again, to be one of the first substances that relieved my pain, got me up out of my wheelchair and walking again. So again, cannabis is good medicine, people.
Amazing. And I've heard stories like that before of people literally being bedridden, basically incapacitated to where they need their chair for everything, and cannabis essentially changed that for them. For some people within minutes, hours, and even weeks, that all kinds of medical cocktails could not even touch. Medical cannabis almost instantaneously solves concerns. That's amazing. So Alison, do you think that our current medical cannabis system is adequate? And can you tell me why or why not?
You know, coming as again from the voice of one of the very first patients in Canada, let alone the world, I might add, I don't think Canada has done enough for patients like us, because I'm somebody who from the very beginning, because I took 32 pills a day, 2,000 milligrams of morphine a day, doctor prescribed heroin and cocaine for 18 years, I decided that marijuana was a much better choice, or cannabis was a much better choice, pardon me. So I decided from that moment on, when I realized the benefit I was getting from cannabis when I was young, that I was going to go out and I was going to tell the world about this, because again, they gave up on me. So I can just imagine how many people out there are like me and being given up on every day. And what we have to do is, again, take our health into our own hands. Our bodily autonomy is our issue to deal with, and we need to learn how to deal with it properly. So again, that's been my fight.
Absolutely, and in fact, I would agree that there really is not much of a medical cannabis system in effect right now. Essentially, from the inception of legalization, the government pretty much dropped it. And I have my conclusions as to why they haven't put much more attention to it. But I'm going to ask you instead, Alison, because we're speaking to you. Why do you think the government has given so little attention to the medical cannabis system in the last 6-7 years since legalization?
I know, Reena. And I know it's because the government is actually trying to meld the medical cannabis people in this country in with the social or recreational smokers. And what they're trying to do is make us go to one source. If you've noticed, nobody at your dispensaries has any medical knowledge, nor are they allowed to give it out to people who ask about it as medicine. So that, to me, is absolutely egregious of this government, and something, again, that is not acceptable, that we will fight in for. So our country, again, has pushed people like myself out of the medical cannabis program because, again, I use excessive amounts because of all the pills and everything that they gave me for so many years. They wonder why 3 grams of cannabis won't relieve my pain. So I actually am legally authorized to use 150 grams of cannabis a day through my doctors, and that's in every form, from cannabis oil on back, and it takes, as people know, 20 times as much cannabis to make oil. So people like me, again, would need larger amounts, and the government's not for that. So they decided, I'm sure, and I know years ago when we fought them, that they were going to push us into this social program and leave us there and let us fend for ourselves.
Pretty much, yeah, it's a money grab.
It is.
A way to make money
It is.
quickly, easily, without fully understanding.
Off the backs of patients.
Yeah, off the backs of patients, without having to understand the plant, first of all, their needs, and the relationship between medical cannabis and the individual.
Yes.
There's no interest in that. So, continuing with that, most medical cannabis users are supporters of plant medicine, natural medicine. And we know that as a plant medicine itself, it has a symbiotic relationship with a lot of other plants out there that also provide us with a lot of medical relief. I was recently informed that you experienced a very challenging moment when self-medicating with your plant medicine. And if you're comfortable with it, I would love for you to tell us about that story, because there are definitely lessons of that.
You know, again, this is something that I haven't really told many people about since it happened, because it threw me into what they call a huge exacerbation with multiple sclerosis, and I lost my vision. I went double vision for weeks. So when I get upset and stressed out, those are the sorts of things that happen to me because of multiple sclerosis. So what had happened was, my big fluffy guy, Gary Lynch, and I were out, and we went out. Gary took me out to celebrate our 37-year anniversary at a local facility. Thank you. At a local establishment. And I did my usual. I was smoking cannabis when I got there, and I put it on the table, a half a cannabis cigarette, beside my bottle of authorized psilocybin tea, which I also carry everywhere I go. Teas are part of me. Teas and the actual mushrooms I take with me everywhere I go. And the people in the bar didn't seem to like that too much. So the bartender right away asked what was in my bottle. When I told her it was psilocybin tea, she refused to serve me, and then ultimately refused to serve my partner Gary, and then my table, my friends. So,
is this a place that you've been to before as well? I also want to ask that. Is this like, have you been to this?
They knew me well. I've been going there over 30 years, 2 to 3 times a month. The manager, the owner, everybody knew us. Everybody who worked there, they were all okay with my medicine until that one bartender I hadn't met that night in her 20s who refused to have anything to do with it and phoned the police on me. So next thing you know, the police come in and escort me out within the hour of us being there. I am escorted out of this establishment in tears, hardly able to walk, because I was walking because it's not wheelchair accessible, the establishment. And so it ended up that, like I said, I ended up walking away. On our anniversary. I ended up walking away with 2 charges that night. One for trespassing. Apparently they had asked me to leave and I didn't leave. But being in a position similar to that for decades with the police being threatened, I never once ever thought they'd be called. That was the first time in my life I've ever had the police called on me and ever been in trouble. So I had a really difficult time with it. Needless to say, I wrote it on social media, it blew up, and next thing you know, the establishment was getting phone calls and being called in for everything from their kitchen to their accessibility issues to their food on back, and boy oh boy, I had nothing to do with that, but it just blew up and took a life of its own on. And I go to court now about this within 6 months. And what I wanted to tell you is that we're fighting on the grounds of something that's never been fought in Canada before, and it's something called the freedom of thought. So what we're going to do is fight not on medical grounds as a patient, although as a patient, I felt it was not about psilocybin tea in that one establishment. I felt it was more than that we should teach the government that patients have the right to consume and use their medicine anywhere. As my lawyer, Paul Lewis, says, if you were a diabetic and had a needle in your arm, what would they have done then? So, again, I come back to freedom of thought. We are going to fight my case on freedom of thought. That being that I believe that this substance, psilocybin, that I'm using, brings me not only closer to God, but also brings me more clear thoughts, dissolves my ego completely, and brings a closer connection with everybody I meet. So we are going to fight on that.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Alison. Obviously, you learned a lot from this experience. Can you share with us what you think you may have learned from this, and maybe what we could learn from that experience? Obviously, I never want to hear you ever having to go through with anything like that again, or, you know, I would hate to hear that any of my other colleagues, friends, family ever experienced anything of the sort. So, do you have any advice?
Thank you, sweetheart. Yeah, you know what? I would suggest if anybody is ever in the position that I was in again and has to leave an establishment, first and foremost, they leave. Because that's why I got charged with trespassing. I honestly didn't believe they really seriously meant leave. So, again, my mistake, and again, I'm going to pay for it. But I will say as well, if you ever find yourselves or anybody you love or know in a position such as I was in with your medicine, when you're out at any establishment, you have rights in this country, and that's exactly why my lawyers, Paul Lewin, Jack Lloyd, Nicholas Pope, Henry Stevens, that's why they fight for us. And former lawyers that I had, originally I had Professor Alan Young, who passed away last year, God rest his soul, John Conroy from British Columbia. There are so many lawyers that I've reached out to who have helped without issue, and I can't thank them enough.
Thank you for that, Alison. Wow, what a story. Thank you for sharing that with us. I know that couldn't have been easy, and I'm sorry that you went through it. The system sucks. That's all I can say. We'll change it, and we're working on making it better. We'll change it. So what's up next, Alison? I know you're always up to something. What do you have going on next in store?
Nothing much other than my court case coming up, and I'm getting ready for that with my lawyers. So, again, I'm going to try and fight on freedom of thought so that everybody in this country, again, will have the basis to fight if they too choose psilocybin as medicine. It's all about freedom of thought. Please remember that. Oh, and check me out at Alison Myrden, ALISONMYRDEN.ca. Please check me out. And again, if you feel like you've learned anything or want to share anything, pass it on to 100 of your closest friends and tell them I say thank you.
Thank you so much, Alison, and thank you for all of your efforts for helping to get us to where we are today.
Thank you, Reena.
So once again, social media, you can also find her on Instagram, ALISONMYRDEN, Alison Myrden.
Thank you.